Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing another hair and makeup tutorial. It seemed like you guys really enjoyed the last one with the blue hair and makeup look, so we're back with another one. We're doing pink hair today. I'm going to be showing you guys how I got this blonde hair and turned it into the pink hair that you saw in my intro. This hair was sent to me from Annabelle. It's an AliExpress hair store, so shout out to them for sponsoring this video as well as sending me this gorgeous hair. They sent me 3 bundles. 2 of them are 18 inches, 1 is 16 inches, and they also sent me a 14-inch frontal. So I did use 3 different hair colors to dye this hair. I used the Ion Color Brilliance Bright in the shade Salmon, as well as 2 Adore hair dyes, one in Fruit Punch and the other in Cotton Candy. So to dye this hair, I am going to be using the watercolor method. I already have my hot water in my plastic container here, and I'm just going to put on some gloves so that way my hands don't stain. I'm placing the Ion hair dyes first into the water because I was originally going for a peachy hair color. I thought I could use it for this watercolor method, but it didn't necessarily work out that well. But I'll show you guys how I kind of finessed it into that pink shade that I got. So once the hair dye was all mixed up, I went ahead and started placing my bundles and my frontal into the water. On the packaging, it does say to let your hair process for about 20 to 40 minutes. So that's exactly what I did. So I'm gonna let it sit there for about 20 minutes and show you guys what the hair looks like after. So after letting the hair sit in the water for a while, I started to take out my frontal first. As you can see, the roots and the ends kind of took the color pretty well. It's just like the middle section that didn't necessarily take the color, which led me to believe that this hair dye is definitely better if you just brush it onto the hair versus using the watercolor method. But I didn't want to leave the hair like that, so I ended up using those 2 Adore hair dyes, the Cotton Candy and Fruit Punch ones, and little by little, I just added it into the water and dipped my hair in. Not for too long though, because I was just mostly trying to fill in that empty space that didn't get dyed by the Ion color. So I only left the hair for maybe 10-second increments until it was kind of matching the roots and the ends of the hair. And that's pretty much it for the dyeing process. I did create my wig and customize my frontal off camera. I do want to create a video showing you guys how I sew my wigs together. I just have to get a proper wig stand so that way you guys can actually see what I'm doing, because right now my setup is terrible. Guys, it's really terrible. But yeah, so now I'm gonna go ahead and start working on my wig cap to lay my frontal down. I'm gonna be using my L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte Foundation and applying that onto my wig cap first. I learned this step from I Am Erica J. You guys suggested her to me in the comments in my last video, and her videos are super helpful, so I definitely suggest you guys go check out her channel. She has tons and tons of videos on how to properly lay your lace frontal, how to get that melted natural look, and I learned so much from her. So now that I have that foundation on my wig cap as well as the lace on my frontal, I'm going to go ahead and cut the little holes by my ears so that way my wig cap lays a lot flatter and a lot easier when I use my hairspray to glue it down. The hairspray that I'm using is from Got2b. It's their Glued Freeze hairspray, and I'm just going to go ahead and add that hairspray all throughout the perimeter of my hairline. And to dry it down, I'm going to use my blow dryer, and you just want to make sure that hairspray is completely dry before you go into cutting that excess wig cap. So our wig cap is looking really good at this point. Now we can go ahead and start laying down our frontal. Like I said, I already have my wig already constructed, so I'm just gonna go ahead and place it onto my head and just make sure it's perfectly aligned and everything. So to glue the frontal down, I'm gonna use that hairspray again. And this is a tip that I got from LaRasia Andrea here on YouTube. You guys can tell I've been doing my studying, I've been learning and stuff. In one of her videos, she actually used the hairspray on top of the frontal. And I was just thinking in my head, like as I was watching, like, oh my gosh, that is so genius and makes so much sense, you know? She did mention that somehow that the hairspray kind of helps make the lace look more transparent, and we all want transparent laces, of course. So I'm just applying my hairspray onto my lace frontal, drying it down as I go along to make sure it stays secure. I'm working in little sections just to make sure that the hairspray is really dry and there's no like damp spots or anything like that. And she also cut her lace after gluing it down, which also was just like a light bulb moment and was like, oh my gosh, she's a genius. So yeah, I went ahead and used those tips that I got from her. As I'm cutting the lace, I'm making sure to cut in a jagged line. Both ladies said that this kind of helps make your lace frontal look appear more natural versus just kind of creating like a blunt cut within your lace frontal, if that makes sense. A few notes that I wanted to share with you guys regarding this hair. I did really like how full the bundles were. I experienced a tad bit of shedding, but nothing too crazy to the point where I was like really concerned. I think it more so came from the fact that I cut my bundles as I was like sewing the top portion of my wig. So I wasn't really too worried about that. I think my favorite part about this hair was how full the frontal is. I really enjoy like a really full, like dense frontal, even though it's a lot more time consuming to customize. For me, I just prefer a higher density in my frontal versus like something of a lower density. But the hair in general is super soft. I really enjoyed this hair. I just wanted to share those notes with you guys just in case you're interested in looking into this hair. To really make sure that that lace frontal is laid down and melted, I went back in with that hairspray and using a very light touch, I added some to the very edges of the frontal and just kind of went in with my rat tail comb and repressed it down on any areas that I thought were lifting slightly or just needed that extra bit of attention. And again, I have my blow dryer in my other hand, so I'm drying it down as I'm applying the hairspray. Then last but not least, I'm going to customize my edges. I trimmed off a bit of my sideburns, a little more than I actually wanted, to be honest. I kind of wanted them to be longer, but I used a new razor and I didn't realize how sharp it was, but it all worked out pretty good anyways. Then to style my edges, I used a hair mousse from Tresemme. I used a really small amount. I've just been like watching other people's videos and I noticed that a lot of people are using like hair foams and stuff like that to style their edges. So I thought I'd give it a try because I have been using gel to style mine. And I thought it'd just be nice to kind of try something new, and I actually do prefer the way my edges look this way versus using hair gel, so I'll probably stick to this method. But yeah, I just applied a little bit onto my edges there and I went ahead and brushed them and styled them the way that I wanted to, and that's pretty much all I did to style my frontal. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I also flat ironed my hair off camera. I did all that type of styling off camera because I figured you guys probably already know like how to flat iron your hair. I don't think anybody needs to see me do that. But yeah, once I'm done styling my edges, I'm gonna go ahead and move into the makeup part of this video. So now I'm going to be getting into the makeup look. To start off, I'm going to be using the P. Louise base in the shade Rumour number 4. And using a flat brush from P. Louise, I'm going to carve my brows and also apply this base all over my eyelid to prep for my shadows. The first color I'm going to be going into is from the Bombshell Cosmetica Candylicious palette, and I'm going to be using the shade Blueberry and applying that onto my crease using a Morphe M506. You guys already know this is my favorite brush to apply my crease colors with. This one as well as the Morphe M507. So I'm just going to buff that into the crease and wing it out towards the end because we're going to be doing a winged cut crease for this look. Before I go into my second shadow, I like to take the Fenty Beauty blotting powder and set the base right above the first shadow I applied. That way I get a smoother, more seamless blend from my second shade. Next, I'm going into the Lick & Lash Beauty 35E palette, and with this baby blue, I'm going to use this to blend out the edges of that first shadow we applied, so we don't have any harsh lines anywhere and everything is really well blended. To deepen up the crease even more, I'm going to go in with a navy blue from the same palette, and using a Morphe M507, I'm going to apply this directly onto the crease. Once I'm done applying this color and I have the intensity that I'm looking for, I'm going to go into the same brush that I used to apply that blueberry, which is our first shadow, and go over the edges of that navy blue just to make sure that's also really well blended into the lighter blue. Before I start cutting my crease and everything, I want to clean up my lid space with some eye makeup remover. I'm using Lancome's by Facile eye makeup remover, and I have some on a little Q-tip, and I'm basically cutting the crease with this. All this does is make sure that whatever base I use on top of my lid, it doesn't blend in with any of the shadows that I applied on my crease and change the color of the base that I'm using after. Next, I'm going to create my first cut crease. I'm using a mixture of two color bases from P. Louise. These are Poppin Pink and Winter Rose. As usual, I'm going to use my Sigma E58 brush and create a winged cut crease. I like to stamp the base on in the shape that I'm going for, and from there, I smooth out any areas that need like a little bit of touching up and drag any excess product down into the lid. To set that pink base, I'm going to go in with a neon pigment from Mayo Makeup. I'm using their Ultra Bright Pink pigment, and using a small brush, I'm just going to gently pack this on top of the base. Now, because I want this pink to be a liner, I want to use a little bit more of that eye makeup remover and clean up the lid space again. And same thing as I did before, I'm also kind of cutting the crease. Because we're going to be moving in with a different color base next, I don't want that pink eyeshadow to blend in with it and mix up the color. To create our second cut crease, I'm going to use the P. Louise base in the shade Hint of Mint. Again, I'm just going to use my Sigma E58 brush and create the same kind of shape that I did before with my last cut crease. And I'm making sure to also use the same technique. I'm stamping the base into the shape that I want it to be. Then I'm going to drag any excess product downwards towards the lid. Then to set that, I'm going to use the Bombshell Cosmetica Sour Blast palette, and using the shade Lime, I'm going to apply this on top. I'm using a much smaller brush because I want to make sure to get as close to the edge of that cut crease as possible. And then for our third cut crease, I promise this is the last one. I'm going to use the P. Louise base in the shade Touch of Frost. This is like a baby blue, and this is going to work perfectly as a base for our lid shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and create that cut crease in the same exact shape as I did my last two. But this time I'm also going to bring that color completely over the lid and make sure to kind of wing it out on the outer edge as well. To bring a little bit of extra shine to that lime green liner, I'm going to add some glitter on top of it. This is the OPV Beauty Metal and Liquid Liner in the shade Flashlight. Now I'm going to go ahead and start adding some glitter to the lid. I'm going to be using a new product that I got from Jordana Ticia Cosmetics. This is one of their shimmer pigments in the shade Chill Pill. So I'm going to be using the pigment part of this product because it does come with a cream base on the top. And I'm going to apply that on top of that blue base that we have from Louise. And this is just going to give some extra shimmer to the lid. Then for that last bit of detail, I'm going to go in with my Danessa Myricks Colorfix in the shade Lift and create a liner, but I'm not going to fill it in. I want to leave it empty so you can still see the glitter and shimmer inside the liner. And the brush that I'm using to create my liner is from Hobby Lobby. I like to go to like arts and crafts stores to pick up really good liner brushes. I feel like they work really well and they're much less expensive than getting an actual liner brush from a brush company. So if you're looking for good liner brushes, I definitely suggest trying like Michael's or Hobby Lobby or any of your nearest arts and crafts stores that sell paintbrushes. I'm then going to clean up the edge of my liner using a makeup wipe, and with my P. Louise base, this one's in number 4, I'm going to sharpen up that liner a little bit more. Before I apply lashes, I want to add a little bit of mascara. Today I'm using Lancôme's Grandiose mascara. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I love mascara. I love to test out new mascaras. I like to figure out which brush works best. And in my opinion, Lancôme definitely has some of the best mascaras. This one and the Mercier Big mascara are some of my favorites. I just thought I'd throw that out there. But yeah, I'm going to add a couple of coats of mascara, and then right after I'm going to add my lashes. The lashes I'm using today are from Crystal Lashes, and these are in the style Daredevil. I also have a coupon code for these lashes. It's just Tiffany in all caps, and if you use my code, you'll get 20% off of your purchase. I'll make sure to leave it down below in the description box just in case you guys want to check out their company. I really love their lashes. They're super, super cute. I'm going to pop these on using some tweezers and then just make sure to kind of press them into my natural lashes so they blend in a little bit better. Okay, so moving on to skin, I'm going to start off prepping my skin using the Touch in Soul No Poreblem Primer. And I'm just going to spread this all across my face using my fingertips. I'm making sure to kind of focus it more so on my cheeks because that's where I have my largest pores. And then for foundation, I'm using Lancôme's Teint Idole foundation in the shade 460W. I'm going to spread that across my face using a foundation brush, and then I'm going to go over it using a sponge just to make sure I get that really smooth, flawless finish. For concealer, I really love layering, so I'm going to use the Laura Mercier Flawless Fusion Concealer first in the shade 4N. This one's a little bit closer to my skin tone, so I like to use this one to actually conceal my under eyes. So I'm going to apply that first and then blend it out using that same sponge that I used to blend my foundation. And then on top of that, I'm going to use the Fenty Beauty Pro Filt'r Concealer. This one's in the shade 350 and it's slightly lighter than my skin tone, so I'm more so focusing this one on the innermost part of my face. So really close to my nose, the innermost part of my under eyes, the sides of my mouth, a little bit on my chin, and slightly on my cupid's bow as well. And for this concealer, I'm going to blend it out first using a brush and then again go over it using my sponge just to make sure I get the same finish throughout the whole entire face. Then to set my concealer, I'm going to use the Fenty Beauty Pro Filt'r setting powder in the shade Banana. I remember when I first used this powder with the Fenty Beauty concealer, I absolutely hated it. I couldn't stand it. I didn't understand why, but if for some reason it just kind of clung in patches to certain areas of my under eyes, and I didn't like the way that it looked. I think now that I'm applying the powder with the sponge, I can definitely appreciate the formula now. It gave my under eyes a really smooth finish. For some reason, it just didn't really work for me when I used a brush, so I'll definitely stick to using a sponge with this powder in the future. Then to give my under eyes a little bit of that extra brightness on the innermost part, I'm going to use my MAC Mineralize Skin Finish in the shade Medium Golden. And again, I'm just focusing this on the very inner part of the under eye to give that section a little bit of extra brightness. Then to set the rest of my face, I'm using MAC's Studio Fix powder in the shade NC50. And with a large powder brush, I'm going to use a small amount to set my foundation and give my skin a little bit of that extra coverage. At this point, I like to apply my bronzer. So I'm using a mixture of two different bronzers from Anastasia. One is Saddle and the other is Cappuccino. Cappuccino is a little bit more red, so to kind of tone it down, I'm mixing Saddle, which is slightly more neutral, and it kind of gives me like that perfect bronzy shade. So I'm just going to apply that on all the areas where I want more warmth. So my forehead, my cheekbones, obviously, and a small amount on my nose to give it a bit of a lift. Now I'm going to move back to the eyes. I just want to start smoking out that lower lash line. I'm going to go back in with Blueberry first from the Candylicious palette and apply that onto my lower lash line. And I'm using a smudger brush to apply this. I'm making sure to pack on the color really well. Then to blend out Blueberry, I'm going to go back in with that baby blue shadow from the 35E palette by Lickin' Lash Beauty. And I'm going to use that Morphe M506 to give it a really good blend and smoke it out. Then to deepen up the lash line, using that same navy blue eyeshadow that we use on the crease, I'm also going to apply that really close to the lashes to give it that little bit of extra smoke. For the waterline, I used a minty, like light blue type of color. This is one of the new Shockwave liners from LA Girl, and it's in the shade Fresh. Before we go into brows, you guys know I gotta apply my L'Oreal Voluminous Lash Primer. I love adding lash primer to my lower lashes, especially because they're a little bit on the thinner side, so it just gives my mascara something to kind of grab onto so my lashes look a little bit fuller. Then for brows, you guessed it, we're going into the Anastasia Dip Brow Pomade in the shade Ebony. I'm not doing anything too crazy with my brows today. I'm just going in and filling in all the sparser areas and just making sure to add some little brow hairs on the innermost portion of my brow. Then to make sure those hairs don't move anywhere throughout the day, I'm going to use the Anastasia Clear Brow Gel right after. Then to finish up the eyes, I'm going to go back into that lime green shade from the Sour Blast palette and pop that into the inner corners. So because I've been using more powders than usual, I've been really drenching my skin in sprays. So today I'm using the Mario Badescu Orange Blossoms Facial Spray. So I really made sure to just drench my face in this because, like I said, I've been using a little bit more powder than usual, and I don't want my skin to feel too dry, especially my under eyes. And now is the perfect time to highlight. So today I'm using MAC's Extra Dimension Skin Finish in the shade Oh Darling. It's so pretty. I love this highlighter. I've been really into MAC products lately. I went into Ulta and picked up a few MAC things like lip glosses, powders. I got this highlighter, and I've just been falling in love with MAC all over again. So if you see MAC products starting to pop up more in my videos, that's probably what's going on. But anyways, yeah, I went ahead and highlighted my skin using their highlighter in Oh Darling. I added it to my forehead, cheekbones, nose, all the areas that I typically highlight. You guys know the drill. Then to line my lips, I've got to go in with Cork Lip Liner by MAC. This is my all-time favorite lip liner for any type of neutral lip look that I'm going to do. So I'm going to use this first to line my lips. Next, I'm going to use MAC's lip liner in Chestnut. This lip liner, I'm only going to use it on the very, very outer edge of my lips to kind of create a shadow, almost like a contour type of effect. So I'm not trying to really go in with it. I'm just really creating a very, very thin line on the outer edge of my lips to give it more of a poutier type of look, if that makes sense. Then to fill them in, I'm going to use a Jordana Ticia's liquid lipstick in the shade In the Buff. I'm going to add a small amount to the top and bottom and just blend it out using my finger. And for gloss, I'm also using their luster enhancer in the shade Enchanted. And that's pretty much it for this look, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this hair and makeup tutorial. I'm sorry I was away for such a long time. I was dealing with allergies and all this pollen in the air, which is driving me nuts. Goodness, I'm so glad it's over. But I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so much again for watching. Know that I love you and I'm sending lots of love, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.